Hi everyone. In the yesterday class, we discussed about the hormone auxin and we have finished the complete signaling of auxin also. So friends, let's try to start with the abscisic acid. If you recall in the yesterday class, we started abscisic acid and I have given the introduction about the abscisic acid also. So friends, in this particular class, let's finish the abscisic acid as well as the hormone ethylene also. Let's start. What is abscisic acid? I told you it is a sesquiterpene. Friends, sesquiterpene means what I have told to all of you. It is a 3 isoprene. It contains 3 isoprene units. So 3 isoprene units means total how many carbon we discussed? It's a total 15 carbon. And what is the point you have to remember? Whenever we heard the name of a auxin, we use it to remember the most common function, that is auxin is a rooting hormone. Similarly, when you heard the name of a abscisic acid, what is the most common point that I want you to remember? It is a stress hormone. Friends, if you quickly recall in the yesterday class, I have clearly told you that in the year 1960, three individual scientists, what they have done, they have identified three different types of inhibitor. And what is the name they have given? Dormin, abscissin 2 and inhibin. What did I tell you in the yesterday? The three individual scientists from three different laboratories, they have identified three different inhibitors. But friends, after few years, it was surprisingly to know that all these three hormones are structurally and functionally similar. Based on the three names, we have derived a common name that is called as what? Abscisic acid. And I tell to all of you, if you want to recall one hormone with the another hormone, or if you want to remember the hormones easily, the simple shortcut is comparing one hormone with another hormone. When we compare one hormone with other hormone, we can remember how difficult it may be in a simple way. An example, we discussed where the auxin will be abundantly synthesized. We clearly discussed that auxin abundantly synthesized in the shoot, but we discussed it is going to show their action on the root. That's why we called auxin is a rooting hormone. Now friends, every one of you listen. Abscisic acid, we called it as a ubiquitous plant hormone. If you recall, even we can called uh, every bacteria is ubiquitous in nature, because bacteria will be present in the high temperature, low temperature, as well as high pH, low pH, high salinity, low salinity. In a similar way, abscisic acid is a plant hormone present in the every part of the plant body, but not in the greater concentration. It is present in the every part of the plant body in very low concentration. Please kindly don't forget this point. Abscisic acid is primarily synthesized in the vascular tissues, and they are transported to what, my friends? Target tissues. This transport, so how does the abscisic acid can be transported to the all parts of the plant body? Whatever the abscisic acid that is synthesized in the shoot, via phloem, it can transport to the root. Whatever the abscisic acid that is synthesized in the root, it will travel to the shoot via xylem. Please kindly don't forget this particular point at all. Now, I have told you in the yesterday class, we no need to remember the structure at all. But what is the point that I want you people to remember here? As I said you, abscisic acid is a sesquiterpene, which means having 3 isoprene units. What's the common point you have to remember? Abscisic acid can be exhibited in the cis form also and trans form also. I told you right in the yesterday class, what is the naturally occurring abscisic acid in the plant body? That is zeaxanthin. My friends, what is the point I want you people to remember? This particular zeaxanthin, which is a naturally occurring abscisic acid, it will occur in this cis form all the time. That's the point you have to understand. Naturally occurring abscisic acid is always exhibited in the cis form. Okay, if you recall, we discussed auxin is synthesized in the shoot, travels to the root. But what about the abscisic acid? Since it is produced every part of the plant body, it can move all parts of the plant body via xylem and phloem. And once again, what is the common or what is the precursor that we used for the synthesis of auxin? I hope every one of you remember, friends, that is the tryptophan. And friends, what is the naturally occurring auxin? We read IAA is the naturally occurring auxin. My friends, now what's the point you people has to remember? Once again, when we are reading the third hormone, we can compare. It will become very easy for us. The major precursor used for the abscisic acid synthesis is the IPP, isopentenyl pyrophosphate. And friends, IPP or isopentenyl pyrophosphate is a how many carbon containing compound, friends? 5 carbon containing compound. And what is the name of the naturally occurring abscisic acid in the plant body? Friends, the naturally occurring abscisic acid in the plant body is zeaxanthin. Please kindly don't forget that particular point at all. Now, what are the major functions of the abscisic acid? Friends, we have to understand every function elaboratively. I'll explain one by one, just focus. Abscisic acid induces the stomatal closure to prevent the water loss by transpiration. Friends, everyone understand, during the transpiration what happen when the temperature is extremely higher? What happen? The transpiration rate will become more. When the stomata get opened, abundant amount of water can loss from the plant body. Then what happen? Then plants start facing adverse conditions like drying or desiccation. What is desiccation? Desiccation is the condition where there is absolutely no water content in the plant body. Now, during that condition, the stomata has to be closed. Yes or no? How does this particular stomata can be closed, friends? This particular stomata closure can be mediated by whom? This can be mediated exclusively by abscisic acid. In the next slide, with the help of a diagram, I will explain you how exactly abscisic acid is going to induce the stomatal closure. Okay, look into the second point. It promote the seed dormancy. Just now I told you, friends, dormant. Understand, dormant is the period where there is a no fertilization. This is a very unique point, friends. Dormant. Dormant is the period where there is a no fertilization. Friends, whenever there is a no fertilization, obviously, friends, even there is a no seed germination also. Yes or no? Of course, yes. Now, what I want you people to remember here. So, abscisic acid is the hormone which is promoting the seed dormancy. What is the name of the hormone that break the seed dormancy? Everyone keep it in your mind. Once again, you have to remember this for exam. Gibberellic acid is the hormone that can break the seed dormancy. Friends, just opposite. If abscisic acid promote the seed dormancy, there is a no fertilization. Then what is opposite? When the gibberellic acid break the seed dormancy, there is a fertilization. When there is a fertilization, there is a seed germination. Don't forget that. That's why we can say abscisic acid and gibberellic acid both act antagonistically to each other in terms of dormancy. Please kindly don't forget this point. Next, promote leaf senescence independently of ethylene. My friends, in the next hormone anyway, we're gonna read about it. In the exam, if they ask you a question, which of the following hormone plays a crucial role in the leaf senescence? What will be the answer? Obviously, it promotes the leaf senescence independently of ethylene means what? Hormone ethylene is the one which will help the leaf to become older. By that, leaf can fall down. But now why I have used abscisic acid here, that's what I have written here. It promotes the leaf senescence independently of ethylene. So hence you have to remember, abscisic acid is not the major hormone involved in the leaf senescence. It may show leaf senescence in very few plants, especially citrus plant, and in which case whenever the concentration of ethylene is extremely low and whenever the concentration of abscisic acid is high, only during that particular condition it is independently it is going to promote the leaf senescence. Keep that point in your mind. Now next unique point, try to understand this. It promote root growth and inhibit the shoot growth at a low water potential. What do you mean by this particular point? Everyone just think the condition in the plant body is, everyone listen, the condition in the plant body is there is a very low quantity of water in the plant. That is the condition. Say example drying condition, say example desiccation condition, where the water quantity in the plant body is very low. So then my friends, now you only tell me, then which part of the plant body requires more water? Does root requires the more water, or does the shoot requires the more water? I want every one of you remember this point. Always remember, when the low water potential condition, root require more water and shoot require less water. Now my friends, what this particular abscisic acid is going to do, it promote the root growth. And what it is going to do, it is going to inhibit the shoot growth exclusively at the low water potential condition. Always remember that. And you can commonly remember friends what we said about the abscisic acid. This is the major hormone which is involved in what? Inhibiting the growth. So it inhibit the germination and inhibit the early seedling growth. What is the just opposite hormone? Gibberellic acid. And another very unique function about the abscisic acid, that is friends, abscisic acid is going to promote desiccation tolerance. Listen this interesting point. First of all, what is desiccation? As I already mentioned, desiccation is the condition where there is absolutely no water content in the plant body. Then that time plant has to face lot of adverse condition. You know what that time abscisic acid will do? Immediately abscisic acid in the plant body going to activate an important protein. We called LIA protein. We called it as late embryogenesis. Late embryogenesis abundant protein. Always keep that in your mind. Late embryogenesis abundant protein. You know what this protein will do? This protein, listen my words, it will try to maintain a little quantity of water in the plant body. Once again understand, this will try to maintain little concentration of the plant body, little concentration of water in the plant body. As a result, what happened? During the desiccation condition, plant cannot die. Plant can survive in that particular condition. Plant can cope up with that particular condition. That's why the hormone abscisic acid is called as a stress hormone, which is going to be released in the plant body during the stress condition. So that's why we can say it promote the desiccation tolerance. These are all the major functions that we have to read for this particular abscisic acid. Now friends, I want you to know the first function very briefly and elaboratively. That is, it induces stomatal closure to prevent the water loss by the transpiration. Let me explain you how this particular function can occur. Okay. First of all, everyone just say to me how the guard cell can be opened and closed. We will understand later the role of abscisic acid. First of all, tell me, how does the stomata can be opened? How does the stomata can be closed? We all commonly know that when abundant amount of ions, especially what friends? Especially sodium, potassium, chlorine. Friends, when all these ions enter inside what? Inside the guard cell. What happens then? Listen my point. The sodium, potassium, chlorine, especially potassium, increase the turgor pressure on the guard cell. So the pressure exerted by the guard cell, what friends? The pressure exerted by the guard cell, what do we call? Turgor pressure. Now what happens immediately? The turgor pressure is going to get increased. Because of the increase in the turgor pressure, what happened? The guard cell opened the stomata. Now the stomata is open. Because of what, my friends? Majorly turgidity. Majorly because of turgidity. Simple point. Now just opposite. Everyone look into this. How does stomata will be closed? That's an important point, friends. See, you only try to understand because of the turgidity, stomata get opened. Now, when all potassium, chlorine, sodium, water, when all comes out, what is going to happen? Undoubtedly, my friends, this particular stomata will become guard cell will become flaccid. Then the flaccid guard cell immediately close the stomata. Now you just understand the unique point here. Just now I said to all of you, because of the turgidity and flaccidity, stomata will be opened and closed. Now the question is here, what is the role of abscisic acid here in the opening and closing of the stomata? How it influences? I want every one of you look into this beautiful picture. What you are able to see here, this is a guard cell. Correct, na? This is a guard cell. On the membrane of the guard cell, what is there? On the membrane of guard cell, everyone look into this beautiful picture. There is a presence of receptor. You are able to see that. On the membrane of the guard cell, there is a presence of what? What is there? There is a presence of receptor. To that receptor, who will come and attach us? Abscisic acid will come and attach us. Why? Because that is the receptor which is specific for the abscisic acid. My friends, listen the statements carefully now. The moment abscisic acid will come and attach us, how the abscisic acid is involved in the closure of stomata? Here, abscisic acid will work with the help of two pathways. One we called ROS pathway. I want you people to remember the full name. So ROS means reactive oxygen species pathway. Very simple. And next one, another pathway we can call INSP3 CADPR pathways. My friends, we have already discussed this. Where we discussed this? In the cell signaling, inositol triphosphate cyclic ADP ribosylated pathways. Simple point. My friends, with the help of these pathways, what you have to understand, how exactly abscisic acid is involved in closure of stomata. One common point everyone has to remember, what, my friends? If this stomata has to close, what kind of condition we have to maintain? Flaccidity. Now, if you remember this, the process is easy. If the flaccidity condition wants to occur, potassium has to go out, water has to go out, chlorine has to go out. Which has to come in? Calcium has to come in. My friends, if these four processes occur enough, the stomata is going to get closed. Now everyone look into the given picture very carefully. First, what's happening here? Abscisic acid will come and attach to the abscisic acid receptor. The moment abscisic acid come and attaches to its receptor, immediately to activate the reactive oxygen species, ROS. Example, H2O2, O2 minus, OH minus. All this reactive oxygen species get activated. Now you have to listen to me carefully. What it will do? I told you, if potassium, chlorine, water wants to go out, which has to come in, my friends? Everyone listen. Calcium has to come in. Now what has happened, my friends? Calcium entered inside. A simple concept. Whenever the calcium enter inside, what happening? Potassium incoming channel or influx, potassium never ever come inside, no way. And whatever the potassium outgoing channels are there, chlorine outgoing channels are there, water outgoing channels are there, all going to get activated. Now no new potassium cannot come inside. Whatever the potassium, whatever the chlorine that is already present, they are also going outside completely. Then what is going to happen? It leads to the flaccidity in the guard cell, which leads to what? The closure of stomata. This is one simple pathway. Now, what is the another pathway used by the abscisic acid? You read this in the cell signaling also. When abscisic acid come and attaches to the abscisic acid receptor, mechanism is same. It is activating the another secondary messenger which we call nitric oxide, which is a gaseous secondary messenger. Now nitric oxide activate the inositol triphosphate, which was asked in the question. Which of the secondary messenger is involved in bringing the calcium from the vacuole? This particular inositol triphosphate come here. Inositol triphosphate will come and bring the calcium whichever stored in the vacuole. As a result, what exactly going to happen whenever this particular calcium comes out? See, calcium will enter into the cytosol. At the same time, very important point, H plus ATPase pumps also get inhibited. H plus ATPase pump get inhibited, no positive charge is coming inside. Whatever the potassium is already present, it is also going out. Water going out, chlorine going out. Obviously, what is going to happen? The guard cell will become flaccid. Once it becomes flaccid, what happens? Stomata will be closed. This is how the abscisic acid is involved in the closure of the stomata. Not all the time, of course, during the desiccation condition or during the drying condition. Once again, let's read. Quickly summarize. Abscisic acid involved in the closure of stomata with the help of two pathways. ROS pathway, inositol triphosphate cyclic ADP ribosylated pathways. You can shortly remember IP3CA DPR pathway. Now some students will get a doubt whether these two processes occur step by step or whether these two processes occur simultaneously. My friends, the two processes occur simultaneously. Don't think that they are occurring step by step. First, abscisic acid attaches to its receptor, activated ROS pathway. ROS pathway bring the calcium inside. They will send potassium, chlorine, water outside, which causes the flaccidity of the guard cell, which leads to the closure of stomata. Next, same, abscisic acid attaches to its receptor. Here instead of ROS, they activate nitric oxide followed by the IP3. IP3 will go and bring the calcium which is stored in the vacuole into the cytosol. Now calcium is there. So H plus ATPase pumps get completely inhibited. No new potassium never comes. Whatever the potassium is already present, it will go out. Water goes out, chlorine goes out. Once again, which will promote the flaccidity of the guard cell, which leads to the closure of stomata. Friends, this is how the abscisic acid involved in the closure of stomata. That is completely about the hormone abscisic acid. Now let's try to understand another very important hormone, that is ethylene. So once again, if you want to understand all the hormones in very easy way, the only shortcut is what, my friends? You have to remember, listen my statement, you have to compare. Actually, you have to compare one hormone with another. By that you can remember it easily. Now once again, remember, whenever we heard the name of auxin, what I told to all of you to remember a one single line, it is a rooting hormone. That's what I told you. Whenever we heard the name of abscisic acid, what did I tell to all of you to remember? I told you that it is a stress hormone. Similarly, my friends, when you heard the name of a ethylene, I want you people to remember two words. What was that? Ethylene is the fruit ripening hormone. Please kindly don't forget that point. And what is the another unique point, friends? Ethylene can also plays a crucial role in the senescence. We can also call it as aging. Don't forget that point. Okay. So ethylene is the most important fruit ripening hormone. If you quickly recall, auxin is the hormone which is derived from a precursor, that is what, friends? Tryptophan, which is an aromatic amino acid. Yes or no? Yes. Now once again, try to compare. Ethylene is the plant hormone which is exclusively derived from an amino acid is what, my friends? Methionine. Please kindly do not forget this particular point at all. Ethylene gas is a major plant hormone. It is involved in different processes. I will explain one by one. It is required for plant growth, and it is mostly important for the ripening. Even it is having a great significance in the agriculture also. Let's understand how. You know, right? Ethylene specialty is what? Ethylene is the gaseous hormone. This is the only hormone which is gaseous in nature. Yes or no? Of course, yes. Ethylene is a gas produced naturally by fruits and vegetables during its metabolism. Kindly do not forget this particular statement at all. Now, biosynthesis of the ethylene. How does this particular ethylene biosynthesis is going to take place? Ethylene is produced from essentially all parts of higher plants. Once again, let me explain you. You remember auxin abundantly synthesized in the shoot. This is how you have to remember every hormone. And we read abscisic acid specialty. What we read, it is a ubiquitous plant hormone produced in smaller concentration in every part of the plant body. That's what we read. My friends, when you heard the name of ethylene, everyone keep it in your mind. Ethylene is produced from essentially all parts of higher plants, including leaf, stem, root, flower, fruit, tubers and seed. My friends, here comes a unique point. What was that? High concentration of ethylene. I mean to say, friends, 100%. 100% of ethylene present in the senescing tissues as well as the ripening fruits also. Do not forget this statement at all. High concentration of ethylene present in the senescing tissues also as well as the ripening fruits. 100%. Okay. So friends, don't get confused. This is also important point which was asked point in the exam. Ethylene is basically biosynthesized from the amino acid methionine. I told you. First, it is going to be converted into adenosyl methionine, also called as ADOMET. Later, it is going to be converted into ethylene. I will explain you in the biosynthetic pathway named as Ang cycle. My friends, I want every one of you pay attention towards this. You people no need to remember even a single structure also. You no need to remember. What you people has to remember is the schematic presentation. How does this particular ethylene can be biosynthesized? Which was a asked question in the CSIR also, even in the JAM exam also. Please keep that in your mind. Listen friends. Yang cycle. Just keep it in your mind. This is what friends? Methionine. I'll tell you one by one step. Listen. First, methionine can be treated. Can be treated by what, my friends? Adenine. Just listen to me carefully. Methionine can be treated by adenine in the presence of enzyme ADOMET synthetase. Then immediately it is converted into adenosyl methionine. We can call it as ADOMET. Now this ADOMET can be treated by an enzyme called as ACC synthase enzyme. Upon treating with this particular ACC synthase enzyme, it is going to give rise to the ACC. What is that ACC called as? Amino cyclopropyne carboxylic acid. This is the question asked in the exam. Which of the following intermediate product will be produced in the biosynthesis of what? Ethylene. That intermediate is ACC. Later, that particular ACC can treated by an enzyme called as ACC oxidase, and it is going to be converted into ethylene. Don't forget that. Now once again, try to understand. Methionine treated with methionine combined with adenine with the help of an enzyme ADOMET synthetase. We know, right? Synthetase means always use the energy in the form of ATP. Now methionine combines with the adenine, it is going to give rise to S-adenosyl methionine. Now this S-adenosyl methionine can be treated by an intermediate enzyme called as ACC synthetase enzyme. It is going to give rise to a compound called as ACC, and ultimately it is going to give rise to what? Ethylene upon treating with the ACC oxidase. Such a simple step it is. You no need to remember any structure. Now you can ask me, sir, what about this? You no need to read this at all because this is a bacterial pathway, not at all required. What I want you people to remember is just this schematic presentation. Majorly remember which amino acid is involved and what is the intermediate that is produced, which enzyme is involved. That's all you have to remember here. I hope everyone understand. Now, what are the major functions of ethylene? My friends, this thing we will understand in the next class. In the next session, I will finish the hormone ethylene as well as I will finish the most important one, gibberellic acid. In the last part, I will finish the cytokinin. Okay, thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next session.